Hello and welcome back. Recently, one of the subscribers to this channel has left this comment, which I found extremely relevant. So I thought, let me make a complete video for this addressing these questions left in the comment. So let me first read the comment for you, clarify the questions, and then we will get into the answers. Sir, please make a video in the system based on the system for Inter Group 1 Jan 2026 on 1.5 days. So they are asking about how to use the 1.5 days we have left before each exam. Why revision feels like first time studying. Writing practice, should you study and then write test, or should you write test and then study? I understand concepts quickly and interpret it in the right manner, but I forget quickly. And then I get stuck in exam and not able to manage 3 hours, not able to finish the paper in 3 hours. Now, how I have structured this video is that I have answered this question 3 first, and then I have clubbed this question 2 and question 4 because they both are of similar nature and they have the same answer. And then finally we will see question number 1 and question number 5, one after the other. So let's get right into this. We will start seeing the first question. Should I study and write test, or should I write test and then study? See, students generally can be categorized into two types. One is like type A and the other is like type B. Type A is this easily sensitive people, highly anxiety prone people. They have very low tolerance for errors. And then type B are those people who are naturally calm, collected and composed people. They have high tolerance for errors. Now you look at yourself and you see whether you are a clear type A or type B, or you are somewhere in the middle with more towards type A or more towards type B. You decide by looking into yourself. So my first advice is, if you are naturally composed, study, test, and then iterate that way. And then if you are highly anxiety prone and if you have low tolerance for errors, study for 3 times and then test yourself. This classification is applicable only if you have the luxury of, let's say, 100 days to the exam, 70 days to the exam, something like that. So you can pick the method based on your mindset and temperament. You have the luxury to choose what works best for you. However, when you have 50 days to the exam, you can't afford to choose based on your mindset. If you have 50 days to the exam, by the time at least you should have written your MTP1, no matter how much you think you have studied. You have to get into that exam writing mindset when you are 50 days to the exam. And particularly when you have only 35 days to the exam, you must have written the second round of mock test. Again, no matter how much you think you have prepared. It doesn't matter whether you think you have prepared 90% or you think your preparation is only 35%. And then again, it doesn't matter if you think that you are a type B personality or if you are a type A personality, it doesn't matter. Another important point that I want to highlight here is that after having written this test, compulsorily evaluate the paper yourself. In case you have subscribed to a paid test series from an external party, from an outside institution or somewhere, after them correcting your paper, receive the suggested answer copy as well as your answer copy, and then do one more time of evaluation by yourself. That itself will be like doing one more round of revision of the entire syllabus. You evaluating your answers, you have no idea how much you are going to get value out of it. So that concludes our first segment and leads us to the next segment, which is a combination of two questions. Why revision feels like studying for the first time, and during study sessions I'm quite comfortable. I understand pretty much everything, but then I forget what I read pretty quickly. Now this type of situation occurs to student generally because we attend all the classes sincerely, and by the time we finish all our classes and we get to our full-fledged self-preparation, we are only left with, let's say, 100 days or less than 100 days. And we also have a self-imposed target of, we say to ourselves that we have to complete the 100% syllabus and we don't want to compromise on that. With these base things laid out, we are always on the catch up. Even on the first day, even from the very first day of our self preparation, we always feel like we are behind. So no matter how much preparation we do with very good amount of focus, we always keep thinking that, okay, I finished supply under GST chapter, then okay, let me move to charge of GST chapter. Okay, I finished a charge of GST, then let me go to time of supply. Okay, I finished a time of supply, let me go to place of supply. We always keep targeting the next chapter, the next chapter, the next chapter. Meanwhile, the chapter supply under GST, which we studied on, let's say, 20 days ago, would have been gone completely out of our memory. The core point that I want to highlight is we keep constantly chasing for the next new topic without addressing or without revisiting the topic that we studied earlier, because we subconsciously believe that I studied it for one time. If I go back to the same chapter and try to open and read it for the second time, we think that we are wasting our time because we are already running short of our time. We have a target of completing 100% of the syllabus. So if you think that I have to go back and study the same chapter one more time, you will say that I would as well read a new topic in that time rather than revisiting the same chapter which I have already studied. You think that you have a very, very extremely good memory, but we forget that our human memory is not foolproof and we have a lot of memory constraints. Let me show you with this example. Whatever we study today, whatever we come across today, right at the moment of introduction of that concept to us, our comprehension and understanding is at like 100%. The memory about it and the comprehension about it is at 100%. But as the time keeps passing on, the brain keeps leaking the information out of our system, and by the time we cross the first 24 hours of the initial introduction of the topic to our brain, we would have forgotten almost 80% of what we came across. And eventually, with the days, enough number of days passing by, we almost let it completely go out of our mind. So day 1 we studied some chapter, and day 2 we study some new chapter, day 3 new chapter, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, we keep studying new chapter and new chapter and new chapter. So whatever we studied on day 1, let's assume this topic to be supply under GST, is completely gone out of your memory by the time you see the same chapter on day 40. So day 40 you take up the same chapter to do second revision. This is the very reason why you feel like the chapter that you have already studied, when you take up for revision, you feel like you are seeing it for the first time because you have given too much gap in between your round 1 and round 2. So that addresses question number 2. Now, why do you forget quickly? Yes, I told you, human memory is like that, your memory is like that, my memory is like that, All India rank number 1's memory is also like that. The greatest of greatest human beings, their memories exactly work the same way. If somebody tells you that I have an exceptional memory, I just have to see something one time and I'm going to remember it forever, either that person is fooling you or that person is an extreme outlier which the talent you cannot match. So stop expecting that to happen. So stop personalizing this and think that you are kind of cursed with a bad memory and everybody else seems to be just doing fine with having just studied it for one time. No person can go to the exam hall and write a perfect answer with having studied a concept only for one time. That rarely happens. So don't fall for that. Okay, how do we overcome this? We overcome this through the spaced repetition system, which I have done enormous research about, and I am currently working so much to bring this system into implementation. Now, first let me explain the system, the theory of the system, and then let me also show you what I'm currently doing about the system to make it practicable. Now, the system is whatever that you study today, round 1, right within the next 24 hours, you have to study it one more time, and then you give another 3 to 4 days gap, you reintroduce that topic one more time, then you again leave another 10 days gap, reintroduce the topic for the 4th time, then you give another 10 to 12 days gap and get reintroduced to the topic for 5th time. Every time you get reintroduced to the topic with increased time gap in between. So these are the key things you have to note. You have to get reintroduced to the topic again and again with increased time gap. So it's not that you keep studying every day after day or within the same day, back to back to back. If you do revision, it will work. No, it won't work like that. You have to give enough time gap between each and every iteration. So in this, between this two, 1 day, between these two, you have 4 days gap. Between these two, you have 7 days gap. Between these two, you have 10 to 12 days gap. If you do revision like this, by the time you reach round 4 and round 5, the level of comprehension and the level of retention that you have on that particular topic will be absolutely phenomenal. You will see the difference between a chapter that you just studied it for one time and a chapter that you studied for 4 to 5 rounds, between day and night of a difference. Okay, now, am I just propagating this just like a theoretical scientist? Am I just pushing the system to you for you to follow? No, I am actually practicing this system right now. You must have already heard me talking about this before, but in case you haven't, let me introduce you to the effort that I'm currently doing, which is the channel that I've created called Daily Memory Lab. I'm running this experiment. I'm studying CA Inter GST syllabus just like you, like a student. I'm studying study material each and every day, like 5 to 7 new pages every day. So I have also created this Excel sheet which has like dates for 5 rounds. So if I study something today, which is 16th October, I studied supply under GST, 4 new pages I studied today. So it will fall due on tomorrow, on 21st October, 28th October and 7th November. So whatever I studied, let's say e-Waybill, first 8 pages I studied, which I studied on 3rd October. It fell due on 4th October, which I completed. Then round 3, 8th October, I completed round 4. It fell yesterday, I read it. And round 5, it will fall due on 25th October. Now, whatever I studied, like already 4 rounds, the understanding I have on these 8 pages, the understanding I have on these 6 pages is absolutely incomparable. Okay? So, yes, the drawback, I won't say it is a drawback, it's a seemingly an apparent drawback, which is it might look like you are going a little slowly. It might look like you are every day you are only studying 7 to 8 new pages. Yes, that is there because each and every day you will always have something to do round 4 of and something to do round 3 of and something to do round 2 of, and then you can get to study a new topic. So by the time you read, you get to read the fresh 7 to 8 pages of the present day, you must have already completed some 15 to 20 pages of revision of whatever that you have studied like 2 days ago, 5 days ago, 10 days ago. So you have to address those things first and then you have to come to your current day's target. And this, yes, the progress and acceleration, it will be slow, but the level of depth that you can go by using this system will be absolutely phenomenal. So I'm just showing this to let you know that I'm not just preaching this, I'm also running an experiment. So let me prepare till January. Till then, I will be releasing one new study session. I'm just documenting my own study process. I will keep uploading every video every day until January 2026. So it is all there for you to see. So based on that, we will see where we end up in January and we will get to know whether the system really works or not. Already this channel has been getting a very good traction. Students are following this. So if you are studying CA Inter, if you are going to write this exam in January, you can definitely follow and you can study along with me. Okay, on that note, we have completed this particular topic, the question number 2 and question number 4. Let me move on to the next segment, which is how to make the best use of the 1.5 days before the exam. To be honest, I really don't have a positive advice to give for this particular question. Rather, I would give you a couple of things that I would avoid if I were in your place. So I also recommend you to avoid doing that. So the 2 things that I would avoid, the first thing is forget about the past exam. Now, it might appear to be like a cliched advice. You might feel like, don't I know about this already? Yes, you must have heard a lot of people talking about this, but how to implement this? Luckily, I never had problem following this particular advice. Let me tell you how. I always think that when I go towards the exam hall, it is important for me to protect my mindset. So I naturally stay away from my friends, people who chit chat, gossip, and everything. So most of you will follow that as well. When you go to the exam hall, you keep friends away. You will be like laser focused in the exam until you get into the exam hall. So that is pretty much taken care of. Now, the same way, after you come out of the exam hall, try to maintain that same level of focus until you reach home. So I somehow subconsciously or naturally was able to follow this. Even after the exams are over, some days, most of the days, I just head back to home straight away. Even if I happen to meet and greet a couple of friends on the way, they will ask, "How have you done the exam?" I said, "I have done okay. We will not know until the result comes. Let us wait for the results." And I'll just again, for courtesy sake, I'll ask, "How have you done?" Okay, if the paper was tough, too tough. If the paper was easy, okay, it was manageable. And the conversation ends there. I will never let another person to cross check their answer with me. The moment the person says that, "Hey, what did you do about that working note? Did you follow this method or did you follow that method? How much ballpark number you got? How much purchase consideration you got?" Or let's say for that DT question, how much was the approximate tax amount you got? I never let the conversation to go in that direction. The moment I believe the conversation is going in that direction, I'll say, I completely forgotten about it. Because to be honest, I think I would have forgotten about it. If you think about it, the whole 3 hours of focusing and writing in that exam was already painful enough. That focus was extremely taxing enough. You have your adrenal system fully pumped for that 3 hours to make you unable to focus for those, keep your focus intact and, keep writing and writing at your fullest possible speed. You would be pretty exhausted by the time the bell rings at 5 o'clock. So when I come out of the exam hall, I would naturally feel relieved rather than to think about the same question paper. I would simply come home and toss the question paper somewhere or just insert the question paper between a couple of books. I just make sure the question paper gets out of my line of sight for the rest of the exams. So that's first advice. The second advice I would say to what to do or what not to do in the next 1.5 days is that don't touch any new topic. Let's say you have a paper in which you have 10 chapters and you have covered 8 chapters. Let's say you followed this spaced repetition system and you covered 8 chapters and you have not touched a couple of chapters at all. So the first point is, now also don't worry about the other 2 chapters that you have not touched. Look at those 8 chapters. Within that 8 chapters, there will be a couple of chapters or even 3 to 4 chapters where you would have studied only, let's say, 3 rounds instead of 5 rounds. Now focus on those chapters. In the next 1.5 days, your job is to maybe do the 4th round or maybe do the 5th round on whatever the 80% of the paper that you have chosen, which you have not completed 5 rounds of revision. And of course, whatever that you have studied 5 rounds already, try to do one more round of revision before the exam. So that is exactly what I would recommend you to do. Don't keep hunting, don't get greedy and say that, okay, I will capture the other 20% also. I have 1.5 days time. Definitely do not do that. That is the fastest way to get into panic. That is the fastest way to get into anxiety. You should have that blind assurance that yes, from that 20%, there will be question in the exam hall. Probably the very first question that I see might be from that first 20%, but I have the assurance that I have covered the other 80% extremely thoroughly. CA Institute has to ask from those 80% topics. So I will somehow manage and I will try to attend all those 80% questions and I try to get as much marks as possible from those 80%. So that's the answer to that question. So let us go to the last question, which is how to finish the paper in 3 hours, which means the students are getting stuck and they are not able to finish the papers, how to handle it. Now just let's see some maths quickly and let me give you the advice part. 100 marks, you have 180 minutes no matter what type of level you are in CA. 1 mark, you have 1.8 minutes to get 1 mark, to present 1 mark, or 108 seconds, which means for every 108 seconds you have to move on to the next mark and next mark and next mark. In other words, if you see the other way around, every 60 minutes, every passing hour, you must have crossed at least 30% of the paper or 33% of the paper to be on par. Now, this may not exactly happen like hour 1 you cross 33, hour 2 you cross 33, and hour 3 you cross 100. It won't happen like that, but at least it is a place to start with. If you see from this calculation, if you are going to attend a 10 mark question based on the math that we have given, you should already set a maximum time that you have to complete this question, which is 18 minutes. Okay, give yourself extra couple of minutes, 20 minutes, maximum 20 minutes. You cannot afford to go beyond 20th minute for this same question. That means you should always have a part of your brain, a part of your attention, one eye on your watch. So when you start a question, know that exactly by what time you will move to the next question, whether you have completed the answer to your satisfaction or not. That is the most important point here. When you start a 10 mark question, you have only 20 minutes to be with that question. The moment you see the 20th minute is done, you have to move on to the next question. Now, this is the reason where a lot of students fall into the trap where they don't have the awareness. The problem is that they don't have the awareness. And then one more thing is that they think that they know that 10 mark question very well, or let's say it's a 12 mark question very well. It's an amalgamation question which you have practiced for very long, and you know that question very well, and you want to do the question to your fullest satisfaction. Couple of things might go wrong. Let's say the question has 10 working notes and you are stuck already in working note number 3, and that working note number 3 itself has taken, let's say, 7 to 8 minutes of your time. So by the time you came to 20th minute, you have done only, let's say, working note number 7. So you don't have the hearts to stop the question right there and go to the next question. Or let's imagine the other way. By the 20th minute, you have already done like 10 to 12 working notes, whatever the working notes that are there, you have already supplied them. But at 20th minute, you discover that you have committed a mistake in working note number 2. Now you have to go and correct that working note number 2. Let's say all the subsequent working notes were dependent on the number that you arrived at working note number 2. Now you have to rearrange or recalculate the solution for the entire answer, which is going to cost you another, let's say, 17 to 18 minutes. You won't have the hearts to go to the next solution. You won't have the hearts to stop it right there. The time is done for that question. Kill it. Go to the next question. This is exactly the type of courage, a detached commitment that you have to develop. And this comes only through practice. This is why I've been harping about in my channel through and throughout, mock tests are essential. All this nonsense will happen in MTP1. You will be stuck in one question. One amalgamation question, value of 14 marks, it will take like 70 minutes of your time. Then the rest of 86 marks, you will do it in the other, let's say, 110 minutes. You will not have time. And we'll say when you are doing MCQ, that MCQ is worth only 1 mark or it is worth only 2 marks. If a question is worth only 2 marks, ideally it should be over within 3 minutes or maximum 5 minutes. Students particularly, they approach the paper with 1 marks first. Okay, you can, if that is what gives you confidence, or particularly in your case, the paper 1 mark has come in a very, very kind of easy way. You want to build confidence, build momentum. You approach 1 mark first, but have a ceiling limit. Decide by what time you are going to abandon 1 mark and you are going to go to, go to the descriptive portion. So if you have 30 marks objective questions, you cannot afford to spend, let's say, 90 minutes on that. You are supposed to complete within maximum 45 to 50 minutes because you have another job to do. So personally, my way of writing an exam would be I would write all the highest, heaviest questions first, 16 mark question, 14 mark questions first. I'll get them done, and then I will finally come to the 1 mark question, which is like the last 40 minutes or last 50 minutes, because in those last 40-50 minutes, out of those 30 marks, some questions I really know the answer and I might immediately write within 10-20 seconds. So those questions automatically will get the marks for you. Some questions, even if you do a bit of calculation, you spend the 4-5 hours, 4-5 minutes that you have allotted for them, and even if you still get it wrong, you are going to only lose 1 mark for that. So that way, it's like the loss you kind of minimize when you write 1 marks at the end. So we have come to the end of this video, but before I let you go, whatever topic that I have covered in this video about spaced repetition system and how to utilize the 180 minutes in the exam, how to manage your time in the exam, I have given it in much detail in my book Substance and Form.